To prepare for this week, you need to have this article read by Thursday. So listening to me read it to you is definitely an option with this video. So let's go ahead and begin. This week we'll be discussing the March on Washington and the role that it played in the civil rights movement, and more specifically the controversy behind it that Malcolm X had caused with it. In order for us to get to the Malcolm X issue with the March on Washington, we need to understand and review, for some of you, what the March on Washington was. So that's kind of the purpose of this article. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. We will refer to this passage as passage 1. So hopefully that's written on your paper. It definitely needs to be read first before we go into later Malcolm X's viewpoint on this issue. So let's go ahead and start. This is an excerpt. This excerpt about the March on Washington was taken from the book The Civil Rights Marches by Linda and Charles George. These authors have written more than 70 books for classroom use about a number of topics. They co-author works of fiction and nonfiction for children, teens, and adults. So this little blurb right here is letting you know that it's a credible source, that there are two authors that write together for the purpose of teaching students and to inform you. So that's just letting you know that this is definitely a good article and the facts are probably legit. In May 1963, the nation focused its attention on Birmingham, Alabama. Martin Luther King Jr. had called it the most segregated city in America, and he chose it for a major series of demonstrations. Marches, boycotts, and sit-ins were planned to try to win desegregation of stores, restaurants, and other public places. When the police arrived, some of the black demonstrators were attacked by snarling German shepherds. Others were hurled against buildings by stinging jets of water. These images were carried across the nation on television. As a result, many whites began to understand the often brutal rules of segregation. In this picture right here, it says that black demonstrators to shield themselves as the firemen hosed them with water to break up their gathering. This photograph was taken in Birmingham, Alabama on May 4th of 1963. So the hoses were used to kind of try to break up and not allow them to be so united. I'm not sure if you know how fast water comes out of a fire hose, but it would sting. It would hurt really bad. All right, next page. Let's take a look at the picture first. Even blacks who served in the United States military had to endure racial segregation. And this was also a really big issue. Just a little side note here. Many people felt that, and I happen to agree, many people felt that, listen, you have African Americans fighting in war for our country, yet when they come home, they are not treated with respect as far as being able to vote or use certain restrooms, etc. But yet they seem to be good enough for that, to die and fight right alongside white soldiers in war, but not good enough when they came home. So that was a huge controversy during the war. That was just another example of just the ill treatment. All right, let's go ahead and continue the article. Horrified by the images of the violence in Birmingham, President John F. Kennedy sent a civil rights bill to Congress in June to end segregation in hotels, restaurants, theaters, and public places. So John F. Kennedy was a very popular president and definitely not racist. He was trying to end it. Make sure you're following along. It also gave the Justice Department the power to sue school districts and refuse to desegregate. To urge Congress to pass the bill, Philip Randolph proposed another March on Washington to unite people behind this historic law. So just trying to motivate everybody, they felt that maybe another march would help kind of get behind this law and unite everybody together. On August 28th of 1963, nearly 250,000 people from almost every state in the Union gathered at the Lincoln Memorial. 80 million Americans viewed the event on television. They heard the intelligent, informed, thoughtful words of black spokesmen from all walks of life. many saw clearly for the first time the truth behind Black American struggle for equal treatment. So as we've discussed before, television played such a big role during the civil rights movement of spreading the harsh treatment in Birmingham, up north into all over the states of America so that people could see what was going on in the South. All right, make sure you're following along with me. Let's go ahead and turn the page. Again, you have perhaps this article. If you have a hard copy, feel free to take any notes on it. If you don't, you could definitely download the PDF onto your desktop and then use the tools to write any notes that you want. But again, you need to be familiar and make sure you're reading this article with me for later this week when it's due. I believe we decided Thursday. Okay, let's continue. For one day, thousands of Americans walked together, ate together, laughed together, and cried together. So we have complete unison happening here. Ate together, walked together. I love this picture here, this bird's eye, an aerial view, and you can just see this is just all people. Thousands and thousands of people are all around the Lincoln. As Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in 1964, it was an army without guns, but not without strength, of every faith, members of every class, every profession, every political party, united by a single ideal. By late afternoon, the marchers were tired, but when Randolph introduced the morale leader of our nation, the crowd came alive. Dr. King began slowly and formally presenting his prepared speech. As he spoke, the crowd responded with great emotion. Dr. King soon forgot about the speech he had written. Instead, he told the world about his dream of justice, a world without color barriers. His desire for equality and freedom touched the hearts of all who heard it. His speech continues to inspire people today. I find this to be one of the most fascinating facts about his speech, was that he left his script. He had note cards, he had his speech all ready for the March on Washington, and as he found himself speaking, he put it aside and just spoke from his heart. So the I Have a Dream speech, which is studied today, is sidebar. I mean, it completely was ad-libbed. He just made it up as he went. And I find that to be unbelievable. But he definitely was talented and smart enough to do that. Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And when we allow freedom to ring from every village, from every hamlet, from every state, from every city, we will be able to join hands and sing, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. So let's take a look at the picture. There you have Martin Luther King, and just this is more from his viewpoint, this picture, versus the aerial one we just saw. If you look, you can see all down. Okay, those are just crowds of people going all the way down. If you can look far back in there. Amazing. Then the people cheered wildly. Many wept. The power of King's speech lay in the voice it gave to the hope of 22 million Black Americans. Later that day, Dr. King and the other leaders of the march met with President Kennedy at the White House. Kennedy praised the deep fervor of quiet dignity of the marchers. After the march, let's take a look at this picture. After the march, King, second from the left, there's Randolph, second from the right, met with President Kennedy at the White House. President Kennedy did not live to see the Civil Rights Bill become a law. So remember, the March on Washington was initiated by Randolph, right here, was initiated by Randolph to unite and build up the momentum for the new law that was going to be passed, that Kennedy said he would pass. So the March on Washington really was going to be a celebration of the Civil Rights Bill coming to law. Unfortunately, he was shot. Kennedy was assassinated by a racist. And on November 22nd, it didn't stop it though. President Lyndon Johnson used his influence in the Congress to ensure the passage of the bill. So on July 2nd of 1964, Martin Luther King Jr., along with other proud civil rights leaders, watched the President Johnson sign the bill into law. And there you have it. You have the Civil Rights Bill becoming a law. And that was the whole point in the March on Washington, was to gather together and unite excitement and that feeling of accomplishment for the bill that was about ready to become a law. Unfortunately, Kennedy did not get to see that happen. All right, and there you have it. You have finished this article. So if you do have a hard copy, you can go ahead and make sure that you keep that someplace safe if you took any notes. And if not, then at least you've read it and you're ready to begin talking about Malcolm X's thoughts on the March on Washington on Thursday. All right, good job, you guys.